Free your staff to focus on high-impact work while offering round-the-clock assistance to every student. With Element 451, you can deploy AI agents that reason, act, and provide support at scale, solving problems, analyzing data, and crafting personalized outreach instantly. These AI agents expand your team's ability without replacing the human touch, allowing staff to dedicate their time to what matters most. Unlock the future of workforce enablement at element451.com. Hi, I'm a higher ed social media manager, and I have a confession. I'm always curious how the agency side approaches social media. So I invited Josh Rangel, Senior Director of Social at Ogilvy, onto the podcast to talk shop. Welcome to Confessions of a Higher Ed Social Media Manager, a podcast that addresses the do's, don'ts, and dynamics of the digital ecosystem specific to higher education. I'm your host, Li Fowler. Join me every other week for discussions with some of the best minds in higher education social media management and marketing. Confessions of a Higher Ed Social Media Manager is a part of the Enrollify network, a robust collection of podcasts designed to help higher education professionals like you grow. Explore our other shows at enrollify.org or check out some of my personal favorites linked in the show notes below. Enrollify is made possible by Element 451, the leading AI-powered all-in-one student engagement platform helping institutions create meaningful, personalized, and engaging interactions with students. Learn more at element451.com. Josh, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Jenny. Thank you for having me.
I'm really, really thrilled that you're here and excited to learn from you.
I am excited to be a part of this podcast.
Well, so we get some more background on you, can you tell us how you got into social media professionally?
Decades ago, I was working in traditional PR. I was doing press releases, media lists, pitching media, those types of things. And around 2008, this was around the time when SNL started doing digital shorts. We were working with one of our clients, Klondike, makers of the Klondike bar. And we were doing a contest in which we partnered with the Lonely Island, which is Andy Samberg and his team's kind of comedy group. And they were making some videos for us. And so my boss asked me to go onto YouTube and find video creators who were creating funny videos that we could work with to help us promote the contest. And this was before influencers was a thing. This was before we called them content creators and things like that. And so I started doing research around that on YouTube. And I was like, this is really cool. I saw the output of the videos. And so then, as somebody who was interested in that, the head of our social team in Chicago, which there was only 2 people in our agency that were doing social at the time. And he said, go sign Klondike up for Twitter. I said, cool. What's Twitter? And he explained it to me, and I signed up, and then I started the Klondike bar handle on Twitter, was the social media manager, started tweeting, probably without client permission even. We'll bleep that out. And I just went from there.
I mean, I feel like that's how a lot of us got started. We just did it.
We just did it.
Right.
Yep.
There are so many of my colleagues that I know that was the person to start the X account or former Twitter account for so many different higher ed institutions and brands. And so, yeah, I'm sure we have a lot of interesting stories to tell.
Yes.
But that's how it got started with Klondike?
Klondike was the first client that I worked on that was willing to kind of take that risk. Their voice was fun. They were, an irreverent brand and went with it. And so from there, I started their Facebook account, and then they're part of the Unilever ice cream portfolio.
Okay.
So you have brands like Breyers and Magnum ice cream and Popsicle and Good Humor and things like that. And so once brand managers started seeing what we were doing with Klondike on Twitter and Facebook, they wanted to do the same thing. So from there, I started the other accounts for all of the other ice cream portfolios, and eventually was able to kind of like build the scopes, that I was able to build a team and kind of start growing from there.
Wow. I did not know you had your origins in ice cream. That's actually very cool. I love that.
chocolate, vanilla, and everything in between.
Everything.
Yes.
Well, you mentioned decades ago. So you and I have been doing this for a long time. What do you think are some of the big changes, or in what ways has the industry changed?
The biggest thing for me is probably the speed at which social teams operate these days. I think when you and I started, it was probably more of, okay, we have an idea, let's let it go and we'll go from there. But today there's a trend at 9 a.m. If you're not on it by 11 a.m., you're behind. And if you're not churning out content consistently on a regular basis, you're being left behind. So I think the speed and the volume at which social teams, social media managers, and the like are expected to create content and put content out and engage with other people, with their customers, with their community, with other brands, that the speed of which that has changed significantly since we started. And I also think it's become more sophisticated, right? There was, like we said, we just did it. Like, we didn't know what we were doing. We just went out and we did it. We hit tweet, we pressed post, we came up with things on the fly, which that still plays today, obviously, but there was a little bit more freedom in there, and now there is more structure, I feel like, today, and sophistication, specifically when it comes to tools like measurement tools and content calendar tools and all of these things. That, I was doing a content calendar probably in a Word doc back then. Now you have entire organizations dedicated to content systems and management and things like that. So I think speed, sophistication, and impact. I don't think we knew the impact that we were probably making at the time. We were just engaging with people, having fun, promoting the client or our brand that we were working on. But now you can see the tangible impact that brand social and social teams make on their clients or on their organizations on a regular basis.
So when you and I both started, I think, like we mentioned, we just started, it was us. We were a team of one. And this is where I sometimes feel like higher ed just doesn't move quite at the same pace as B2B or industry agency side. Can you tell me how big your team is now? Like, do you have a team? Are you working with a team?
So agency structure is different than your typical probably internal, right? So like at an agency, I'm lucky enough to work at an agency, Ogilvy, in which we have a dedicated social group, right? So that is immensely helpful because I'm working with so many different smart people who have so many different perspectives, who are experts in different areas. So our social team is, around 30-ish, if not a little bit more, right? And so that team is made up of social media strategists, social creatives, community management experts, and things like that. So we're able to kind of like flow within different disciplines within social to kind of focus. So the individual accounts, the number of team members who will be on any individual account, that varies depending on client objectives, budgets, and things like that. So a bigger account that has a more robust budget and a focus on social might have 3 or 4 or 5 dedicated folks, if not more. And some of our clients are strictly social clients. Some are creative clients with PR and influencer and social all mixed in. So it really does depend. Like, so for example, one of my teams, I'm lucky enough to have at least 4 dedicated social folks on it and likely bringing in a 5th. So we're lucky in that regard. But there are some teams who have, one person who's kind of the main social or 2 people that are handling it. But in large part, and especially you'll find this within agency world, it will depend based on what the client scopes and objectives are and how we're staffed.
But I would like to stress that if you want to do it right and really focus resources on it, to be done well, it does take more than one person. It takes creatives and strategists and data analysts probably,
Yes.
right? And
yes,
I just want to pause on that. Like, I think for higher ed, we really need to move beyond the team of one or having a person do social as other duties as assigned, because it's bigger than that, right? And it's become more sophisticated. So
100%. To your point, when you have teams of one, it's incredibly difficult because of what we just talked about, the expectations, the speed, the volume that is is required and expected in a lot of cases now is just overwhelming for one person, right? You wouldn't ask one person to be the accountant and the account management person and the creative and do all of these other things. And so, but there's just this expectation that a social media manager can do the analytics, can do the creative, can do the posting, can do the community management, can do all of these things that are required. And it's really difficult for one person to do unless there are real strong guidelines and expectations set about what they're going to deliver on versus like if you are able to have more people on, you're able to kind of focus in different areas and be more efficient.
Yeah. Preach, Josh, like 100%. In agreement with that. So lots of things have changed. The industry has changed. But one thing that I love about a lot of what you post as well, when I see you posting on your social media channels, is you even on the agency side, you believe in the power of organic social media, right? So yeah. So can you talk about that and why even for businesses it's important?
Yeah. So one of the things I often say, whether it's something I'm posting on social media or conversations I'm having with clients or my team, is I firmly believe social media should be fun. I've said this before. We are setting KPIs. We're not saving lives, right? This is an
Yes.
area where we should really have a perspective on kind of what we're doing. And I think that when you have that mindset of what you're doing is fun and you get to do this, right? Versus you have to do this. You get to be a social media practitioner or professional. And that mindset helps you kind of loosen up a little bit and start to create content that you feel is going to be a little bit more relatable, things that are going to work. And so for me, organic content, organic social, and PR play really well together because it's both about earning attention, right? And in order to earn attention, you have to think what is going to get people to kind of stop their scroll, or something that's going to get people to share this to either with their friends or in a DM or something like that. And so for me, organic social is relatable. It's one of those things where you're earning attention. If you do it well, you're earning the attention without having to pay for it, right? Brands can pay for eyeballs and for reach and those types of things. It doesn't mean that they actually have attention though, right? They can pay for the eyeballs and the reach, but the attention is where organic social comes in, because oftentimes that content is entertaining or is educating. It makes you think, it makes you feel, it makes you kind of reconsider something in a different way. A lot of times it's relatable. And that's a lot of what I try to do, is make it relatable. What would I want to share, or what are the pain points in my industry, or for a client, what are the things that their customers are talking about, right? And the more that you can be relatable to the customers that you have or the audience that you have, the more likely they're going to pay attention to the things you're posting. And that organic social does take time to kind of build up towards like maybe business goals, but over time, the brand that is top of mind from an organic social standpoint is going to be top of mind in that buyer's journey or that customer's journey when they're thinking about a particular product or service, when they're ready to go for it, because they've had those touch points. They've seen that relatable content. They've engaged with it versus just feeling like they're being sold to or pushed ads in potentially an intrusive way. So organic social is a little bit of a long game, but at the end of the day, it's about capturing attention, building that awareness, and ultimately being top of mind when your customer or potential customers are ready to kind of be in that mindset of buying a product or service.
Yeah, I feel like it's when someone goes beyond, or you relate to someone past just a consumer and they become loyal to your brand,
Yeah.
or a fan, like past consumer to fan, I think.
Yep. There's kind of that journey that you go through. You go from being a passive observer or not knowing about a particular brand to maybe a viewer. Oh, I've seen this brand. I've maybe noticed something. And then you're going into an engager. I actually have engaged with this brand. I like this brand. Then you become like an ambassador for the brand because you've engaged in the content, and then eventually become an advocate of their brand. You're the one that is sharing that content. So it's kind of like a cycle that you go through, and it's a relationship, right? You have to build a relationship with your audience and with your potential customers. You can't just go in right away. And there's different touch points throughout relationships where you strengthen those things across the board. And you go from being a viewer to an advocate, but there are different touch points along the way.
Is there a word for that cycle, or did you just, is that what you?
We've been talking about this as like a loop, kind of,
Yeah.
like an infinity loop, so to speak, in that instance, right? And kind of we using that with one of our clients on kind of how we're articulating kind of the journey, right, that they have.
Yeah, I really like that. I feel like I got a little bit of a peek underneath the hood of how you all work. That's
Yeah,
awesome. Um, I I also think that organic also informs the paid side, because if content is doing well on the organic side, then it's going to do even better if you put a little money behind it. Is that
I
right?
was
Yeah.
you took words right out of my mouth.
Oh, great.
I have a very similar kind of perspective on it. My previous agency and at this agency, it's the same perspective that if a piece of content works organically or earns attention organically, it's going to be able to work in paid. You already have a testing ground to say that you've proved it out that it works. Now, if you can take that content and boost it to a similar audience who has similar interests, your average is good that you're going to have even more positive results there. But if you're creating something specifically for paid, it's not always going to work organically. And oftentimes doesn't really, because it feels like an ad, right? There's an objective to your paid thing. I need to drive to a website, or I need you to download this ebook. I need you to do the XYZ. That's a tougher ask in social, because organic, because as you and I know, nobody's going necessarily onto social that when they open up their phone or their laptop to be sold to. They're going to like, what's Jenny doing today? Or what meme is this? What is We Rate Dogs posting today on Instagram? Like that kind of stuff. So yeah, organic to paid, absolutely. And if you are seeing success and you have like a boosting budget, so to speak, if you're seeing something organic that can work, that's taking off, why not put a little paid behind it if you have the ability to see if it's going to work with a similar audience and get more attention? But the other way around, paid and organic, oftentimes those results aren't going to
Yeah,
hit as well.
not as good. So,
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like that. I know that. Maybe it's more obvious for us that are in these circles, but
Yeah.
why is it so hard to convince clients, or sometimes it might be leadership, of the value of organic social media?
A lot of times I think it's because it takes time, right? Yeah, I feel like leadership, especially when you're getting in the C suites, they have, and if you're a publicly traded company, they have shareholders to appease. And a lot of times their objective is that bottom line. Are they increasing sales? Is revenue in? Are their shareholders happy? Is the stock price up? And so a lot of those things require immediate kind of satisfaction. And in this case, with organic social, it's not always that immediate, right? You see, like, oh, look at this is the best post we've ever had. It's had 10,000 engagements and a positive sentiment. The C-suite might be like, that's great, but is it helping with sales? And, I think one of the things that I like to say, and, I've heard other professionals say, is you just have to kind of equate it to the power of organic social and equate it to kind of what that CMO is interested in. Like, think about how you and I are crafting for our audiences on social. Think about your leadership as that audience.
As an audience.
Yes, what
Yeah.
data is going to support what they are interested in? Hey, we got 10,000 engagements. You know what? That means the sentiment is on our brand is increasing. We actually grew 20%, which means a potential increase in consumers down the line. So I think you just equate it to their business objectives and help them see like this is the value of it, or even showing them comments. I didn't even know I needed this, and now I'm going to buy this brand, or I'm going to buy X right now. I'm going to X for lunch, or I'm buying this product. Those are tangible things you can show your leadership and be like, look, this particular post made a sale or had the potential of conversion. And so I think a lot of times, like I said, it's about like immediacy. What have you done for me lately? And a lot of time organic social is long game. But if you can get comfortable with showing the results over time with your leadership, I think you can help them understand how the organic social impacts on an ongoing basis and eventually gets there. So, and it's always a tough struggle. Luckily, I've had a lot of great clients who understand the value of social and are specifically social clients in and of themselves, or at the very least have kind of know the value of it. But yeah, there are those times where it's what's the point of it? Why are we wasting so much energy and things like that? But hopefully the point is that you can get to showing leadership bringing them along your journey and showing them the progress that organic social makes and the
Yeah.
impact it has on the business.
I love that. And I think anecdata, like you said, the anecdotes in the comments, those are really, they work, right? When
Yeah.
you share those. And have you found that when you do that consistently, you can kind of change minds? Has that happened for you?
So it does change minds when you can show them those tangible things. And I think that's a lot of times, that's why it's measurement and reporting is incredibly important, because you can showcase, and especially if you're able to show that reporting on a regular basis. Some clients are going to be quarterly reports, some are going to be monthly reports, some might be twice a year. But the more frequently you can show them that reporting, and especially if it's good reporting, that is helpful in showing them the impact and that it's working. And usually that, in my experience, has worked. It's like, it's an unlock sometimes. Oh, I didn't know that this was this, or I hadn't seen this before, or I didn't understand the sentiment of what our social community was saying. Now I do, because you're showing me this, right? Or, you know what? Sometimes your community has a great idea for a product or service that you take from there and show your boss. And ultimately, maybe that is something that is implemented into your system.
Yeah, it's interesting that you say if it's good data or good metrics, but I would argue if you can educate with it, it makes it good. I think that's a huge unlock, if you would. I really like that word, so I will probably use it in the future. But Josh, okay, I can't let you leave the podcast without asking you, Josh, what is your confession?
Well, I kind of gave it away a little bit earlier, and my confession is that it's not that serious. Social media is not that serious, and I am saying this without trying to denigrate social media pros at all, because I am a social media professional. I love what I do. I love my team. What we do is important. But at the end of the day, I feel like younger professionals are so stressed out, and teams are so stressed out over like a typo, or the fact that the piece of content didn't perform up to KPIs, or what username 89320AB commented, this post sucks. But those types of things, in the grand scheme of things, it's going to be okay. Like when you take step back and have that perspective, what you do matters. You have an impact with your organization. You have an impact on the customers and community that you engage with on a regular basis. And the work you do, it's creative work too. Having that post go viral or it's the best performing post you've ever had. Those things are moments that you should savor and enjoy. And those are the fun moments. It should be fun. And that's a point I'm trying to make, is like, it's not that serious, is it should be fun. You should be able to be working with a smile on your face and not stressed all the time, because what we get to do is fun. I think about folks who have jobs who aren't like ours, who we don't get to play on TikTok, or they don't get to talk about, post Instagram reels and photos and, tweet updates and stuff like that. I think you have to take the perspective of what we do is fun and creative. And just because the post doesn't perform as well, or just because somebody had a differing didn't like the piece of content in a comment, it's going to be okay. You're always going to get another at bat or another opportunity to redo the thing, especially in social, because you know what, people in social have a short memory too, right? Like they're not going to remember that your post flopped 3 weeks ago. So just get back out there and do it. So it's not that serious, because it should be fun. And at the end of the day, I hope that most people can have that perspective when it comes to social.
I love that. And I just have a quick follow-up.
Please.
Is the internet still fun?
Pockets of it are. I think we're in an age now where it's become kind of depressing and doom scrolly in many ways, but there are so many areas of good on the internet, I think.
Agreed.
And,
Agreed.
pockets of community that have found each other around passion and interest topics that make it special. But I think you're going to find what you're looking for. If you're looking to be angry, if you're looking to doom scroll, you're going to find it. If you're looking to be inspired, if you're looking to laugh, if you're looking to join a community, you're going to find that too.
Best answer. Josh, thank you so much for your time and insights. I really learned a lot.
Thank you, Jenny. I had so much fun talking about our decades in social media.
Confessions of a Higher Ed Social Media Manager is part of the Enrollify podcast network. If you like this podcast, chances are you'll like other Enrollify shows too. Our podcast network is growing by the month, and we've got a plethora of marketing, enrollment, and higher ed technology shows that are jam-packed with stories, ideas, and frameworks, all designed to empower you to be a better higher ed professional. Our shows help higher ed marketers and admissions professionals find their next big idea and feature a selection of the industry's best as your hosts. Learn from Jamie Hunt, Allison Tercio, Mallory Wilsey, and so many others of your favorite leaders in higher ed. Enrollify is made possible by Element 451, the leading AI-powered all-in-one student engagement platform, helping institutions create meaningful, personalized, and engaging interactions with students. Learn more at element451.com.